Okay, let's jump right in. Welcome, everyone, to this deep dive where we're looking at a really intense clash between two massive figures.
Absolutely. We're digging in some sources today detailing that very public, very recent fight between Donald Trump and Elon Musk.
Yeah, and it wasn't just talk, was it? There were real-world consequences almost immediately.
That's right.
So our goal here is pretty straightforward. Figure out what kicked this off, how it blew up so quickly, why it matters beyond just the headlines, and, where things ended up based on the info we have.
Okay, so the starting point, according to the sources, it seems to pin down pretty precisely to June 5th, 2025. That was the spark.
And the sources say the trigger was Musk really going after Trump's one big, beautiful bill, the OBBB. He didn't mince words, did he?
No, not at all. The sources quote him calling it a disgusting abomination. His main issues seem to be the deficit impact and, crucially for him, cuts to EV subsidies.
So specific policy points.
Targeted, yes, not just general anger.
And Trump's response. The sources paint it as, well, fast and furious.
Extremely fast. He reportedly went straight to threatening the big government contracts for SpaceX and Tesla.
Wow. Okay, so it jumped from a policy argument straight to hitting Musk where it really hurts his businesses.
Exactly. A direct economic threat, leveraging those major government ties.
Do the sources give a sense of why that specific reaction? Was it just typical hardball?
The context suggests it's a familiar playbook, maybe. Using potential influence over big federal contracts as a way to push back against criticism. Basically, turning public contracts into a political tool.
Right. But then Musk didn't exactly back down, did he? The sources show he escalated things further.
Oh yeah, he really upped the ante. There were mentions of him calling for Trump's impeachment.
Seriously? Impeachment?
And making claims about his own influence in the 2024 election. Plus, that deleted post reference about Trump and the Epstein files came up again.
And the immediate result of all this back and forth, the sources point straight to the stock market.
Absolutely. Tesla stock took a big hit almost instantly, down about 14.2%, the sources say.
Which translates to a lot of money.
Around $150 billion wiped off the market value. It really shows how these personal clashes can shake major companies.
$150 billion. Okay. So with threats like that flying and the market reacting, Washington had to step in, right?
Yeah. The sources report the White House ordered a review. A pretty significant one, looking at around $22 billion in SpaceX contracts.
Which one specifically?
Mostly NASA and Department of Defense contracts. It was a clear signal they were taking the dispute and the threats seriously.
Was it just a general review, or did the sources mention anything more concrete potentially happening, like that Golden Dome project?
They did get specific. The sources mentioned active discussions about possibly pulling SpaceX from the Pentagon's Golden Dome missile defense plan.
Wow. So a personal feud potentially derailing a major national security project.
That was the implication, yes. It showed how high the stakes could get.
But then things seemed to shift pretty quickly, didn't they? Within about a week, the tone changed.
That's right. By June 11th, the sources note Musk posted on X saying some of his comments went too far. A public expression of regret, basically.
Interesting. And Trump's response to that, more measured than his first reaction.
Definitely more diplomatic, according to the sources. He said things like, no hard feelings, indicated he was open to reconcile, even called Musk a friend who got a little bit strange, but added he still liked Tesla.
A bit strange. Okay, so stepping back, what's the bigger picture here? Experts cited in the sources had some warnings, right?
They did. The main concern highlighted was that politicizing these huge contracts, especially for a company like SpaceX that's so tangled up with military and civilian space efforts, well, it could seriously damage U.S. space governance.
Damage how?
And potentially even national security. It introduces instability, makes long-term planning harder, could make partners nervous, disrupts things that rely on these contracts running smoothly for defense or science.
Right. It just throws a harsh light on that tricky relationship between these giant tech companies and Washington politics. Billions of dollars, critical infrastructure, all potentially swayed by personal arguments.
So what we saw, based on these sources, was this incredibly fast escalation from policy criticism to business threats, government reviews involving billions.
And then almost as quickly, a move towards making up or at least calming things down.
It really underscores how linked big business and national policy are now. And what happens when personal clashes meet public contracts and national security interests?
The sources make it clear. These dynamics at the very top can have immediate, massive financial and governmental consequences.
Exactly.
So it leaves you thinking, doesn't it? When private fortunes and public power get this closely connected and personal fights can potentially jeopardize critical defense and science contracts, what does that really mean for how things work, for innovation, for security, for just plain governance? It definitely sets a complex precedent, something to mull over.